Unlike President Trump, who ceased all contact with Jeffrey Epstein before the dead sex criminal pled guilty to solicitation of prostitution from a minor, that is child rape, Bill Gates and Howard Lutnick remained associates with Epstein. First, the Microsoft founder has agreed to voluntarily sit for transcribed interviews with the House Oversight Committee. While Gates conceded that he did cheat on his ex-wife Melinda with, adult women and laments his association with Epstein, he maintains that he, quote, did nothing illicit and, quote, saw nothing illicit with Epstein. Gates' testimony is set to take place on May 19th. Daniel, is this at this point, Donald Trump sort of exonerated, the Clintons sort of exonerated. What are Republicans looking for?
I think this is for the history books and to provide the accountability that Americans want to see. And so if you're not going to go to jail, I don't think Howard Lutnick or Bill Gates are going to jail anytime soon or ever for their associations with Epstein. At least you can satisfy the public for some type of investigation into these associates, people who had dealings after they should not have. And so you can ask tough questions that, I haven't seen Lutnick do a ton of media interviews about this. And Bill Gates, he has 5-10 houses. And so he's not, I think he did some foreign outlets and people are distancing themselves. But I think that this is, all of these people are going to have scarlet letters at the end of the day. And I think that that's the purpose of this.
And also agreeing to testify, the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who lied about staying in contact with Epstein after a 2005 encounter in the latter's townhome. But Lutnick has not been accused of any wrongdoing. Look, Alex, you're a lawyer. There's a reason why historically we don't do giant document dumps of all the information collected during an investigation. Because, people get caught up in some ugly stuff. This is some of it, right?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't like the idea of all this being released because there's guilt by association, even if you didn't possibly do something wrong. Also, the fact that when you did all this massive document dump, to your point, some of the victims' names had to come back and be redacted. That was a
nude photos.
Right. There's going to be errors, of course. That's a problem. I think that it's going to be very interesting, though, to see, Lutnick come forward voluntarily and do an interview. Gates, I'm wondering if Melinda Gates is going to help craft any of these questions for lawmakers. I'm sure that they might be knocking on her door saying, what can you give us to help us get ready for this one? And then, of course, Bondi looks like she'll be having to answer questions before the committee, too.
Yeah, she's been subpoenaed. And okay, so Matt, I personally would not visit someone's island with my children and their nannies and my wife after they pled guilty to soliciting a 14-year-old prostitute. But again, with regards to, does this put Lutnick in any jeopardy with Trump? I know publicly he's remained by his Commerce Secretary, but this is not the first scandal Howard Lutnick has been a part of.
I just feel like with everything with Epstein, I want to associate with what Daniel said. It should all be public. I don't think they should be doing anything behind closed doors. They should have to answer all the questions. It should be about Epstein. It shouldn't be about all the moral transgressions in their lives. I think that gets to be a little soap opera-ish if you get to that point. But it's about Epstein. And by the way, people facilitate Epstein. I think the big piece that bothers people is just we get Ghislaine Maxwell and we get Epstein, but there was a whole coterie of people around them that facilitated this disgusting lawbreaking. And that's what they would like to see. They'd like to see some people held accountable for this. And I think some of those people live on the islands down there, and I haven't really seen it go there yet. But the other thing is we can say Bill Clinton was exonerated, but I'm not sure. He answered a lot of questions. After we get done with all this, we'll have to see if he answered truthfully.
Yeah. Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.